everyone. So I'm really delighted to have a special guest on this video, on this Zoom, who is an old friend of mine who's just made contact again because of my health scare recently. You may be aware that I was feeling really, really ill, and I don't normally go to hospitals, but I ended up going to A&E and had a CT scan, and they found 2 bleeds on my brain, and it was like a massive health scare for me, and I ended up spending 7 days, 6 nights in hospital. And I put this out, and Skip saw it.
No, I didn't.
So, oh,
I,
didn't you see it? You
no,
do.
I
Oh,
saw it.
you intuitively were feeling called to. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
interesting. Interesting. There was that resonance. Because Skip, we go back a long way, and in fact, I came on one of your Detox Your Life retreats
yeah,
quite a few years ago now in Spain,
yeah.
and it was absolutely brilliant, not just in terms of health. And I lost a massive amount of weight, and actually afterwards I lost so much weight and I felt so slim, I actually took a naked photo of myself and I posted it on Facebook, and I got banned.
I
But
just say this, Rachel. After that, you have no idea the messages that I got. This message went out, and imagine this, everyone. Here's a picture of Rachel, one of the former Dragon's Dens, naked on Facebook, and I
yeah.
really thank Skip Archimedes, right? What the hell have you done to Rachel? Like, what do you mean? Like, because she's free, and if that's what it is, it's that freedom that you feel.
I know, I felt so great and fabulous. It wasn't at all a sexual image, it just was
No,
me feeling so alive and full of vitality. But I tell you, the thing about that retreat, which for me was the best part, it was so much fun.
yeah,
I mean, even now, when I think back to some of the events, some of the kind of things you organised,
go
and we
through,
did
yeah.
this kind of competition, and we did our little team were called the Chlorella Queens, and we did like Bohemian Rhapsody, dressed up as Freddie Mercury, and it was just, I mean, if I can find it, I'll dig out the video and maybe I'll paste it into this thing. It was so much fun. And interestingly, Max, who was, do you remember Max? I
Yeah,
was sharing a room with him,
yeah.
platonically, I hasten to add, but I saw him the other day at a party at Sue Stone's,
Hmm.
and it was such a great reunion, and we were laughing so much about that week. So it was such an amazing event. So thank you for making contact, and and also I know you're running another one in Bali, and you've invited me to come, and I'd love to come, but I have to just check because I've got to have an MRI scan that I'm okay to fly because of the pressure on my brain. But I would absolutely love to come and experience that, and I've always wanted to go to Bali as well. It's one of my like go-to places that I've never been to. I love the Far East. So so welcome, Skip. It's so great to see you, and I'm really, really delighted to share all of your wisdom, your health tips with my audience, because I know from just this past couple of weeks, I mean, literally, I could have died at any moment there. And it's really brought it home to me that health is our wealth. It is our top wealth. And since coming out of hospital, I have been so careful with my health. I've been eating, really cleanly. But I have to admit, before this incident, I had lapsed, and I was kind of, I was not, and I'm 60 years old now. So anyway, enough of me rambling on, but talk to us, Skip, about you and your journey, because I know that you've worked with loads of celebrities. You're friends with David Avocado Wolf, who I love, and I follow him on Telegram. And just talk to us a bit about your journey, because your story is incredible. So I'm going to just hand it over to you, just to give
Well,
people a bit of background.
like which one? Okay. So let me give I summarize this, because we're talking about a lifetime of events that have happened, and a lifetime of being slammed down by life, but also a lifetime of learning how to rise back up and learning how to use what happened. And it all started where I had an accident. I used to be a gymnast, had an accident in the gym, and got told that I'd never stand or walk again.
You were a gymnast. You were a gymnast, right?
Yeah,
Professional gymnast.
and the first thing that, well, not professional, you weren't being paid for it. You know, even though I became a champion, there was no money back then in the sport.
Okay.
So full time, there weren't sponsorship deals. You know, we didn't have the national lottery then. There was, you know, it wasn't that the systems weren't in place that are in now. And when I believed that I'd never stand or walk again, from being an athlete and a gymnast where you really get to use your body well. You know, you get to do things with your body that most people around the world never get to experience. And it's amazing because this is an instrument of the divine.
Mm.
And what I'd learned to do, I'd really mastered doing stuff physically until I got this back injury. Now, when they were said, look, we've seen this injury before, no one healed from it, you're going to spend the rest of your life with no hope of ever standing or walking again. It knocked the wind out of my sails like I'd never experienced in my life. And
Yeah.
don't think you're going to stand or walk again. Guess what? Our belief systems create our reality. So what I was believing was a self-fulfilling prophecy. It was just a negative one. Then I had a saying put in front of me, and I started looking at this thing every single day. And it was a saying, and it just said, and imagine this, all my awakened state, I was just looking at the saying. And the saying said, I think it was from Henry Ford. I didn't have a name when it was put in front of me. It was just there. And the saying was, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Henry Ford, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. So I was taking myself down with my own thoughts.
Yes.
What we know about thoughts is we're having about 65,000 a day. And I've got people like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and David Wolf, you know, these legends in a documentary that I'm going to be launching. Well, 25 of these legends all filmed. And they're all saying about according to the psychological model, about 90%, 90% of our thoughts are negative. Now, I didn't know all this stuff back then. Luckily, I went through an experience, and that's that's a whole story within itself. But cutting a long story short, I learned how to walk, run, jump, and to become completely free physically. Now, at the same time, what I had to be first was I had to be free mentally.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal or influence the body healing if I was having negative thoughts. So I learned how to focus the mind, and that's all we've got to do is focus the mind, because where focus goes, energy flows. Most of us are focused on the victim.
Yeah, doom and gloom. Yeah.
There's negativity. There's more negativity out there than positivity. Let's be clear.
And it's being pumped out deliberately, I believe, you know, by media and propaganda. And so it's like they're trying to keep us energetically down, and that's quite an amount to break through, isn't it?
Well, it is if you're looking at mass consciousness. But if you look at the heart and soul of each individual, it's easy.
Mm.
You see this at the events. You know, how come? Because
Yes.
what happened, you know, say if we just take the retreat. Well, okay, let me give you a lead up to the retreat. Right. So what happened was, we had a company. I had no idea that we had a production company in the audience. So they were in the audience at one of my events, and they came up to me after, and they went, "What the hell just happened in those 5 days?" I said, "Well, you've seen everyone leave and look at them literally to 20 years younger.
Yes.
You're 20 years younger. We've now got the data that we can prove in 5 days. We can reverse people's biological age by 10 years in 5 days. It's all data proven. It's, you know, we don't own the technology.
Wow.
It goes around the head, it goes around the wrist, it goes around the ankle. You're rigged up to this machine. So we read people before,
Yeah.
and it reads nutrients in the blood. It reads biological age. It reads all the organs, how well the organs are functioning. It reads brain activity. There's too much activity happening or not enough activity.
Mm.
It reads energy centers, you know, the chakras, on how well each one of them is functioning. It reads the auric field, the energy coming out of the system. Like, we do a test, and I've got 156 pages of information on each person.
Mm.
I'll get close to that. So then after the 5 days, we do the test again. And that's where this company runs the technology, because as we get the readings, it goes to them, you know, as well, because, you know, that they get everything on their mainframe. And they were like, "Have you tapped our technology?" I was like, "What do you?" They went, "Because you're reading people. There must be something wrong with the timings. Are you reading?" Because what we're seeing is that you do it, you get all the information, you do the scan, and then 5 days later, there's something wrong going here because this shouldn't be possible. I said, why? And they said, well, for starters, it's saying that the biological age has been reversed by 10 years in 5 days. But guess what? We brought them in and they saw what was going on, and they went, we've never seen anything like this in our life. So I'll explain what happened. So we get the film crew. They approach me. They want to do it. We test it in Spain because we went in Spain as well.
Yeah.
And what started to happen was they'd hired, this was hilarious. They'd hired camera crew to come out and film. Now, this is going to sound a little bit weird for some people, but just like someone would go in and they would set up a router in a house, and now you can go and get Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And I never explained this stuff even publicly before, but because now more people are starting to be ready to receive stuff, I'm spoon feeding people a little bit more each time. So I've got like a few hundred acres of land out in the Amazon, and I built this temple in the middle, all these living areas around it. We bring in shamans, I'm a top shaman as well, and we do 5 ayahuasca ceremonies. So we cross the veil and we come back. Now, what happens is when I set these energy grids up, so when we run the advanced training, I'm setting these energy grids up, which means what? There's only certain energies that can come in. So nothing from the outside can come in, but if there's stuff through people who are able to take it and transmute it and have the person let go of it, it's like decades and decades of therapy through one process. And there's 49 of these processes that we now take people through in 5 days. So we're there ready to do the first process. And the first process is we're literally watching the sun rise out the sea, and we're sun gazing. And so I can't ask the sun to wait, right? And the film crew meant to be down there. They're not there. I look at my team, where's the film crew? You don't go and hurry them up because that sun's going to freaking come up. And we want the shot with the sun coming up with everyone sun gazing.
Yeah.
They go up to the room and they're like, oh, we can't come down. We're ill. We're thinking about COVID stuff. I said, they haven't got freaking COVID. Oh my God, I'm bringing their COVID. So I have to go out to the room like, guys, you're not going to freaking heal here in your room. I've set the energy grids up for where we go and do all the processes. I'm just bringing your shit up. Please come down, get behind the camera. You're going to feel like shit, but then I'll get this stuff out of you and it'll be gone. And so the guy that was meant to be doing the filming is now being filmed. And what it brought up was magic. Like, it brought up something. Like, this guy was the life and soul of the party. When he spoke, he had confidence. But inside, he was dying, Rachel. And no one had an idea because he was living a lie.
Okay.
And everyone wants to get to that love frequency, super high frequency. But what's 400% above that? Authenticity. Being authentic. So he wasn't being that. And this showed him he had to do that. And it gave him freedom. It brought him and his wife closer, him and his kids closer. And all he was doing was keeping something based on fear. And we know that fear is super low frequency. So anyway, what then happened was we get excited and we like, oh my God, we can film an unbelievable documentary because every time there will be instant healings. Every time people will be letting go of stuff that sometimes they didn't know what they had. Sometimes they just don't know how to let go of it. Now, and as you know, and we start early in the morning, we finish late, but it's a super fun journey. Why? Because every time we laugh, we're going back up to a high frequency.
Yes.
Laugh and humor is super high. And, this is why the laughing Buddha would laugh at everything. And there's a certain irony to life, but we can get wrapped up in the story. We can get wrapped up in something, and it's just pulling us down.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do is pull these things apart, unwrap the whole thing so people can be free. So what now happens is we've storyboarded the whole documentary. We don't know exactly what's going to happen because obviously people's stuff is coming up. But we're looking for those stars of the show, people that will have instant healings, people that will be able to show things that are just mind-blowing. Now, what happens is I'm now on a mountain 6 weeks before we're meant to fly to Bali because the guy who owns the pyramids of Chi, so there's these active healing pyramids in Bali called the pyramids of Chi.
Yeah.
The guy that heard about my work and said, you come and do what you do at my pyramids. I get the best healers from around the world, and all I keep hearing is that you're a freaking miracle maker and they call you the miracle man. Will you come? And I said, no. He said, why? I said, because we need accommodation. You just got pyramids. Where's everyone going to stay? And he goes, look, I'll find somewhere. So anyway, he and his team, they find somewhere. We take the film crew out there. Beautiful locations. We're all in absolute paradise. Sorry, just before that, sorry, I've skipped 6 weeks. 6 weeks before that, I'm snowboarding on the top of a mountain. A storm comes in. I'm off piste. I'm by myself. I can't see 2 feet in front of me, Rachel. So I sit down. I'm going super slow. And as I'm going slow, because I can't see anywhere, all of a sudden, say this is the mountain, I'm off the mountain and boom.
Oh, wow.
Falling. And I've got Will Smith on in my ears getting jiggy with it. So I've got some good vibes coming in. And I'm like, oh God, this isn't going to end well. And I'm still falling. I'm like, this is really not going to end well. And then all of a sudden it goes, na, 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 snap. And as I land down, my board does this. And I hear this snap over the music. And I'm like, that didn't sound good. I've landed on a rock as well. So I'm struggling to breathe.
Wow.
And I'm like, I can't see my hand in front of me like this. I look at my phone. I've got no reception. And I have no idea where I am on this mountain.
Wow.
What do you do? Now, I don't want to go crazy, but being a shaman...
This is the first time I've heard this story, Skip, so I wasn't aware of this. Wow.
So what happened was, one of the things that again, sounds a bit crazy, I'd learned how to do remote meetings with people. So I'm like, right, I need a remote viewing. You better show me how to get down this mountain. And I pulled up my thing and my bone is sticking outside my leg.
Wow.
So, and I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen here then? It's like, we're going to get back on your board and go down. I'll guide you. So, okay, let's go. Kind of long story short, I get down the mountain. They call the ambulance straight away. I'm in the ambulance going to the hospital. And I said, look, don't worry about the leg. I know it's broken. I can see the bone. My mind had told me that I had internal bleeding because I couldn't breathe and I was burning inside, Rachel. Like,
yeah, wow.
Burning feeling. And this is what the mind will do. The mind will usually latch on to fear. So I'm like, look, don't worry about the leg. Just do a test. So they put me through this MRI. They put this, this dye in me to see what was going on. They came out and they said, look, it's fine. It's just an impact. So there's no internal bleeding, like obviously like what you had, with your brain.
Yeah.
The organs are fine. It was just an impact. It's bruising. Now we need to x-ray the leg. So they showed us the x-ray. The bone is cleanly snapped in 2 places. And they said, look, this isn't going to heal. We've got to slice open the leg. We need to put a metal plate in, put 6 pins in to pull the bones back together. I'm like, okay, sweet. Done then, right? So we do the operation. And they then say to me, right, so here's the cast. This cast has got to be on for 8 weeks because it's done in Spain. And I'm obviously, I've got a place in Spain, but I live mostly in the UK. And they said, right, you're going to have to come back in 8 weeks. I said, I'm not coming back in 8 weeks. I said, I'm running a retreat in Bali in 6 weeks. And they went, not now, you're not. They said, you need this cast on for 8 weeks. And if you try and speed up the healing, you're going to risk permanent damage for the rest of your life. So now they're putting fear in you, right? So I'm looking at this thinking, you have no idea what I've learned in this world. But we are self-healing mechanisms that if we go in the high frequency, we have the right focus, we do the right things. You can't just do it with thought. There's energies that you've got to get going, and it's the energy that will heal us. And again, cutting a long story short, Rachel, I get them to cut the cast off. All of this is on camera, right? It's going into a documentary called Reborn, a decade younger within 5 days. And it's the beginning, in the disclaimer that we put at the beginning, this is now in it, like, am I going to make the retreat or not? And am I going to risk permanent damage? Anyway, you then go to the retreat and you're seeing me, this is 6 weeks after the operation, you're seeing me running on the ankle, balancing one leg on it, doing yoga, doing all sorts. And everyone was like, you really are the freaking miracle man. I'm like, no, living, breathing miracles. And I was so grateful it happened because then everyone got to witness this healing in ways that most people have never experienced before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because what then happened on there as well is when we were looking for the characters, we had nothing to do with us. He's a medically trained doctor. So you can imagine what she's gone through education-wise to be an academic genius, all information going in the head. And she says, she still said, I'm a doctor, right? One of these ones. And I said, oh, all due respect to you being a doctor, I said, I know you became a doctor because you wanted to heal people.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I know you're probably doing people more damage than good. She said, what do you mean? I said, because the studies are out, the third leading cause of death on planet Earth now, MD related. So they're related to you somehow.
Oh,
You're either
wow.
information, you're either giving them the wrong vaccination, the wrong medication, the wrong something. I said, the studies are out there, they're not my studies. I said, so you're probably going to have to unlearn all the stuff that you've been taught to learn what's the truth. Now check this out, Rachel. You got to write this stuff in a million years. And we just had a call with everyone. I said, when this goes out, people are going to think these stories are fake. Because this woman, she's in her late 60s. She goes up in handstand, her arms give way, lands on her head. And we hear this crack, like a loud crack. She's shaking like crazy. Now, I don't want this to sound weird, but this is what happens on the retreat. It's like an energy cord comes out of me and it goes into every single person like an octopus, but like with energy. It's not physical. And how I know what's going on with everyone. I don't know it now, because I'm not plugged into anyone, but when we're at the events and the advanced trainings or I'm with the top client, something connects me to them and I'm just fed clean information. There's no filter of the mind. It just comes in and, that's what it is. And there's just a knowing. Just like, we can connect to Wi-Fi and you get a download or you get a connection. We're missing out on this, probably a superhuman connection. I'm making that name up. I've never said it before, but it's kind of what it is.
You do experience that in ayahuasca. I mean, I have experienced that where literally I've noticed this, if I maybe hold someone's hand who's a helper, I can just read everything about them. It's just whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not asking for it. No. It just comes in and it's when I've had that and I've tested it and I said this and that, they're like, how do you know that? No one in my life even knows this.
Yeah.
So because this is where we're evolving as a species now to go into telepathy because the spoken word now doesn't contain truth, or the spoken word has a toxic energy behind it. And words are now hurting people where all they're meant to be is a form of communication.
Yeah.
So what happened with this doctor? Well, she had an accident when she was a kid, fell on her neck like that, and since then she's been having really bad neck problems that would cause migraines and like sinus, all this stuff. And she's on the floor shaking, and I'm with a person over here, and I know what's just happened. I'm like, okay, got it. One of my team comes over. Helen's on the floor shaking. You need to come right now. I'm like, listen, what have I taught you? Calm. Stop panicking. I know what's going on. I'll be over when I've just finished with this person. So I finished with this person. I come over. She's shaking. And again, it sounds easy to say, but it's not easy to do. So I'm in a super, super high vibe. And all I'm doing is rewriting her story. Because she was replaying out the story from when she was a kid and she was in pain and it was bringing all that. And obviously when she landed on it, heard the crack and she could feel the pain, it just brought everything up to the surface and she's stuck, can't move and in pain. And again, the cameras are there and within seconds, Rachel, not even minutes, right? Within seconds, I'm talking to her and as I'm talking to her and I'm kind of pulling it into what I'm doing, and before you know it, as I'm talking to her and I've distracted where her mind was going, and I'm now bringing the mind so the mind's got a new focus, it's believing she's getting hungry in what she now wants to manifest, pain disappears in a heartbeat. And suddenly I went, now the pain's gone, how does that feel? And she's like, I don't get it. And you just see oh, and everyone around is like, oh. And what does it show? All I did was remind her what was real, because what she focused on was an illusion of the past.
Right.
But she could have made that illusion of the past real today, because the mind doesn't recognize the difference between something that's real or something that we're making up.
Yeah.
If we're going to make something up, let's make some freaking miracles up.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Incredible, Skip.
yeah,
So
it's awesome. It's awesome. It's so cool because what she wants to do now, like, I mean, this is all since her leaving the retreat. Imagine this, trained as a medical doctor, and she goes, I want to go out there and do good in the world. Now, all the blue zones around the world, like she's
yes.
on and she's got like momentum behind what she's got. She goes, I want to create all the golden zones around the world. I'm like, what's a golden
Okay.
zone? She's explaining all this stuff as a place where people come and they heal and this and that. And it's just given her a whole new lease. And
Yeah.
she says, I've never been busier, but I've never had so much energy because I'm
Mm.
just all this new stuff. And she just said she's got rid of IBS, she's got rid of fibromyalgia, she's got rid of all of her migraines. She goes, I'm free of all that stuff. And I was like, how does it make you feel? And she's just glowing.
Yeah.
An hour
Amazing.
of detoxing, cleansing, and stepping into our sovereignty.
Yeah, amazing. So, Skip, let me. I know you could talk for a long time about this, but let's kind of earth it into this Bali retreat, because I'm actually quite keen to know. Because when you mentioned it to me, I did go and look at the Pyramids of Chi website,
Yeah.
which looks incredible. Obviously, I have never been there myself, but it looks absolutely stunning what they've created there.
Yeah.
And you're answering a question which I had in my mind, which is there accommodation, or is that somewhere separate, and is it included?
Yeah. Now so what happens is when anyone comes on the retreat, there's the retreat price. We don't own hotels. We've never paid for hotels. We've never took that cost on. Ever. So we don't pay for the flights. We don't pay for the transfers. We don't pay for the hotels. What happens within the 5 days, all of the stuff that people get, because there's more stuff, tangible stuff that we have to give people now that we've learned since the one that you come on, because it's a lot. Like when you come on it, you're going to be like, this is almost like different. Like some of the processes are the same.
Yeah.
Doing with the group consciousness, what we're doing with the individual, and because we can track everything, the before and after. When you see your numbers before and you see them after, and you did all of that in 5 days, there'll be no fear around health ever again. And this is what this doctor said. She said, I was in fear that what I was being told by the industry that paid me for a lifetime, that I would never be able to heal this. And I come with you and I heal it in 5 days.
Yeah.
So it's a paradigm shift on understanding. Because they're long days, as you know, but they're fun days. It's not like, oh God, we've got to go and do this now. No, it's like long days where kids want to stay up all night because they just haven't doing stuff. And it gives people, I think, a remembering, like what you said, health is our greatest wealth. Without health, we've only got one problem: getting health back.
Yeah.
People are healthy, they've got a million problems.
Yeah, well, I think RFK, RF Kennedy Jr. was, he was talking after Trump had appointed him an American. He was saying the same thing. It's like, in life you have like a myriad of problems, but if you're ill, you've only got one problem, and that is getting better. And and it does sometimes take a health crisis to realize, like, oh my God, I took it for granted,
Yeah.
So
well, I spoke to a lady 2 days ago who's quite a sort of high level performer in life. And someone had said to me, again, a private client said, look, I've got someone who wants to come on a retreat, but they can't find anything online. I said, because I don't put my stuff online. I said, I've been a ninja. I've been in stealth mode for like 15 years. Like, me and you, we go way back.
Yeah.
When we were both really getting into this, I suppose, sort of speaking circuit, but really bringing that, those. It started to bring the health in, but what happened from then, Rachel, was health was the main thing that we did. But what started to happen was, because I started attracting like movie star clients, people like Tama, who you obviously met, back in the day on his retreat. Now Tama had lost everything. People didn't know that he'd lost his wife. He got blacklisted from Game of Thrones. No one would hire him. His kids didn't want to speak to him. Everything was down in his life. No work, no money, no nothing. He'd lost a lot. And this is someone who's shot to become a big time movie star, super fast, but he didn't have control of himself. So he control at that level, lost, did enough damage to lose everything. I come along, he comes on the retreat, and then that year he does 4 million.
Wow.
Being not unhireable by anyone. Next year he's living in a £4 million house. 5 years on, with all the coaching, and he comes, I think he must have done 4 retreats now. He goes and wins Legend in Cinema at the British Independent Film Festival. So someone who to be an award-winning, movie star,
Yeah.
what's around? Because we believe, and what this lady said was, because I asked her, I said, look, have you got a health scare? Because what's going to happen, Rachel, is, and I see this globally, unless someone has a shake-up, most of us think we're invincible.
Yeah.
And we can eat what we want, drink what we want, think what we want, do what we want, but it's not the case anymore. Why? Because we're living in a toxic world. Back in the day where it was only nature, yeah, great, go and eat what you want, but different world. But now with all the dead stuff, all the processed stuff, all the fake food, all the fake drinks, all the fake relationships, there's so much fakeness out in the world that what it does is it brings the frequency of the system down. Now, technology, we could show, we would know, right, your liver isn't functioning at a good level. We've got to go and do this to get that liver back up to a certain level. And because we've now got the technology to be able to read that. Back in the day, we never had it. So when I asked the lady, right, is there a health scare? She said, no, I don't want a health scare. And I was like, that's the first high-level person that I've spoken to that's willing to invest her money and her time, because it's 5 days. Total immersion. We take them out of their current environment and they're in our environment for 5 long days, but obviously fun-filled days.
Yeah.
And she said, I've just seen people around me dropping like flies, and someone said to me, oh, if you hang around 5 rich people, you'll be the 6th one. If you hang around 5 angry people, you'll be the 6th one. And she said, all the people I'm hanging around, they're dropping like flies. I don't want to be the 6th one. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it awesome? People are now starting to realize that health is their greatest wealth. But then what started to happen is we learned how to teach people to lay that health as a foundation. But that's what it is. It's a foundation so that we can go and use this instrument of the divine out into the world, doing what we love and doing what should make life a better place. Because if we're doing what we love, people are usually inspired by that stuff.
Wow. So what it really is, Skip, is like, it's that kind of investment in yourself, and it, like, creating a trajectory for the future, which I'm a big fan of this. It's like, if you course correct, a bit like a jumbo jet, when you're taking off, you need to be on the right track, on the right course, because over a period of time, even a few degrees, this is one of the things Rita, my old friend Rita, says, like, if you're a few degrees off over time, you can go seriously off track, So it's kind of creating that trajectory of health and well-being that can take you for a whole lifetime and underpin a life of vitality and joy and abundance and prosperity in every area of your life, and relationships, Yeah.
And it's difficult, and it won't happen by default programs now, Rachel. It has to be designed. We've got to say, right, I don't want to hit burnout. I don't want to hit stressed out. I don't want to hit the body breaking down, because like with your with what happened with you, there's a cause and effect to that. That stuff just doesn't happen. It had to be created. Now, if we look back, as you said at the start of this conversation, I kind of know what it was. So what if we can go back and we can connect the dots, which should mean what? It's not going to become a repeating pattern. Now, the problem with humans is we're creatures of habit. So what we've got to learn is, what I say, all my top, clients are that they're either, celebrities, movie stars, singers, world famous CEOs, world champion athletes. Like, we had this world champion athlete on the when we filmed the Reborn doco, at the Pyramids of Detox Alive. Best in the world at what she does, world champion. You can't get better than that. but yet holding on to a whole bunch of crap. So what she was able to do was focus the mind when she was doing her sport. Teach the body what to do within the sport. Became the best on the planet at it.
Yeah.
But is anyone teaching us stuff to do with thoughts, emotions, what our families are giving us? And what happens, some things that happened in her family, and she was basically the kingpin that everyone was pulling from. So that was pulling her down. And what happened was we got to a point where we realized, oh my God, this has been going on for her entire lifetime. That they basically dumped their crap onto her and she kept taking it. And it's like, you know, when you get like these energy suckers and people try and suck your energy, or they're just used to, you know, giving a toxic energy because then they can release it and they're free of it. And all the empaths are walking around with all this freaking toxic stuff because it's me.
Yeah.
And when she released it, unless you know what's going on, it's freaking ugly. Because she was like rage of this stuff coming out of her.
Wow.
I see it as something so beautiful because now she's releasing all the toxic stuff that was in her. And when you speak to her after, she's like, I never felt this free in my life. Better than me becoming world champion. This is the biggest gift of my entire life. I feel like I've just reclaimed me.
Yeah.
Never even known who I was. I thought I was just an athlete. I'm way more than just an athlete. I mean, and she goes into this expression, and everyone's like, and she didn't get there by me talking to her. This is where the process is a key, Rachel, because as you know, I can have a whole bunch of people in front of me. We're doing the same process, but I'm bringing people's stuff up to the surface. Or if they've done the work and there's nothing to bring up to the surface to be released, then that access in these high streams of consciousness comes in is just gold beyond belief.
But just to be clear, Skip, this retreat in Bali, it doesn't involve plant medicine like ayahuasca, does it? It's completely energy work, as opposed to, because I know that you're involved in an amazing retreat center in South America, so that's a whole separate thing.
When we go to the Amazon and we do that experience, for the ceremonies, we're on ayahuasca, which allows, you know, the visions, you know, it allows one to cross the veil and then come back with that wisdom. But even because we're out there for 15 days and it's a 6-boat journey, and then I send the boats back. So there's no escape.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. No escape, no way out, burn the bridges.
Because we're dissolving people's reality. They think that reality, well, what happens to a lot of people is they base their reality on what the mind and the personality has learned. We're way beyond the mind and the personality. So when we dissolve that, for a lot of people, they don't have anything to hold on to.
Yeah.
And that's why I send the boats back, because then so that's the death, that's the, you know, the shamanic death that they go through, and then it's the rebirth. And that's they now get to be reborn into this body as a spirit that can be free, using the mind and the body as an instrument of the divine. So what we also do is we take plant medicines between the ceremonies that clean up the blood, clean up the organs, clean up the bones. And there's a number of these plant medicines that we're taking in. And the plants, the power in these plants, especially in the Amazon, where, you know, we grow everything there in the Amazon. So there's never, ever been any chemicals near the land. It's the purest air you're ever going to breathe. And it's just gorgeous. You know, it's the Amazon. And long term, what I want to build out there is a whole new civilization, you know, on free energy, showing people that life can be like this. If you have a whole community that's high vibe and everyone's actively involved in the community, what can come out of that? I think that's kind of where it's headed, because as I said, you know, 300 acres is enough to be able to do something like that.
Brilliant, amazing. So let's talk a bit about the Bali retreat, because it's happening kind of 30th June, 1st July.
Yeah, so the event starts July the 1st to July the 5th. We advise, you know, we ask everyone to come out the day before, because now we've got this technology, we can do everybody's readings the day before.
Yeah.
And then if they want, we can read them again after. And it's amazing, Rachel, because we fast for 5 days. I want people to be aware of that. And
so is it a juice fast or is it just a water fast?
So it's water, but and here's the but. When this technology that we have, it reads nutrients in the blood. So it can show if every time your heart's beating, if it's pumping, because if the nutrients aren't in the, what does the blood need? 3 things: oxygen, water, and air. That's it.
Yeah.
If you get the right oxygen in, and we now know if we take oxygen and we take 60% of the oxygen out of the body, guess what happens to that body? Animal or human, it turns cancerous.
Right.
Just by reducing the oxygen. So by increasing the oxygen, guess what? These diseases can't live in it, just by doing that one thing.
Yeah.
So they need oxygen, they need water. We're fighting hydration from the moment we're born. We're born as about 90% water.
Yeah.
Look at people are at when they get buried or cremated, they're about 50% water.
Yeah.
So water is life. You've been around, Emoto teachings and stuff like that to understand that our thoughts are creating an unhealthy body or a healthy body. So we've got to make sure that we've got the right thoughts. And then the nutrients. Now, most of the foods that people are eating are dead. And we prove that. So we don't eat for 5 days. Now, everyone comes in super nervous, who've never done a fast before. And I've had people do 40-day and 40-night fasts, go through our 5 days, and they couldn't access any of the stuff that I gave them access to. They're like, how are you doing this? It's energy. I've just learned to play with the energy that is in this reality. And it's freaking heaven sent what it is.
I have to say I am a big fan of water fasting and I have done it. I've only done it twice, but when autophagy kicks in, which is after about 17 hours, and you could go through to 72 hours, literally you can feel the waves of like healing energy, and it's absolutely, it's like your body is your body starts to clear out any cells which are damaged or. And it's just like your body's own massive healing system. It's really quite incredible having experienced it.
Turning on a Hoover of toxicity within the brain and and that's one thing. But we've got lots of other things that we bring in to healing. So what then happens is when you think about. Why would all these ascended masters fast for 40 days and 40 nights? It wasn't because they couldn't afford food.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they couldn't get food. Because they was able to access something. Now, first of all, we're eating way too much as human beings. Way too much. And back in the day when we were kind of hunter-gatherers, there'd be days where we wouldn't eat. Animals and all these things go days, some of them weeks and months without eating. They don't have a problem. But yet we've been conditioned, must have 3 meals. If you miss a meal, when I miss a meal, I fucking love it. My body loves it. Now, what happens, Rachel, is we take, that I've developed my own superfood range, a supplement range. So we'll take like one of these every day. So they're just nutrients, that I've created. I've learned how to take something from nature without denaturing it, where we can put it into a powder, and I can put it in these little sort of, vegan capsules, swallow it. And what we've got in here, you can't get in normal food anymore. The study done, there's an organization called the Earth Summit Report, and they test the soils all around the world, because if the minerals are meant to be in the soils, we need those minerals. Now, there's a 2 times winning, a Nobel Prize winning scientist, and he says, Dr. Linus Pauling, he says that you can trace every disease, every sickness, and every ailment to a mineral deficiency. So this is someone who's not just a Nobel Prize winner, 2 times Nobel Prize winner, and I've not heard one person go against it. Now, we now know that we're doing fast crop rotation, we're putting chemicals on the land isn't allowed to breathe in the way that it should do, and they're just using the land again and again and again, and what they've done is they've raped the land from these minerals. So the food still looks the same, but it hasn't got the same quality in it. And this is their quote, not mine. Now, this was 1997. That's the last time that they released the data. They're doing the test every year. They haven't released the data once. So 1997, they said this: our food in today's world only contains 5 to 20% of the value compared to 100 years ago. That was
Wow.
1997. We're at 2025 now. You think it's got better or worse?
Yeah.
It's seen worse. So I reckon it's less than 5% of the value compared to years ago. So what happens is we take these, so it gives people the nutrients that their bodies need. I created these synergistic blends of superfoods because I thought, this is what I thought, Rachel, that like, you know me, I'm a character that I just dive in somewhere and I learn how to kick and swim and I'll figure it out. I thought, so when I was, training people like David, David Avocado Wolf, who's probably one of the top guys on the planet when it comes to nutrition, live food, and superfoods.
Yeah.
So when I was with him, and he was like, "You've got to start, these superfoods are amazing." And when I came out of the Amazon, I went and I saw this market, and they had all these powders. What are all these powders? And the woman said, "It's a superfood." I said, "What the hell is a superfood?" So you've got to imagine, I'm going back 13, 14 years. I said, "What's a superfood?" Well, it's a food that can have 2, 3, 400% more nutritional value than most food. I said, "So what's this one?" And she said, "It's called maca root." I said, "What the hell?"
Maca.
And she goes, "Well, we have this pineal gland. We've got these two human eyes here, and we've got the all-seeing eye here. They call it the pineal gland." I said, "Well, what's that do?" She goes, "It's the third eye." I said, "The all-seeing eye?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Oh my God, I'm in the middle of literally getting mine open." And she said, "Yeah, because it's been calcified." She said, "With everything, use it or lose it. You want to build a muscle, you got to use it. If not, you're going to lose it." And she said, most people haven't been accessing the spiritual realm, so we've lost that ability as a human race.
Yeah.
But what this will do is it will decalcify the shell that the pineal gland's in so you can use it.
Yeah.
Now imagine this. Here's a lady, probably lives in a tiny little hut. That's it. Wouldn't have a bank account. She lives in a tribe. And I say to her, "How much for all of it?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I want to buy it all." Now, you and I, any entrepreneurial mind can think, "Oh my God, I've just sold my entire stock to one person. This is amazing." Guess what she said to me? I can't sell it all to you. I said, "Why not?" She goes, "Because I'll have nothing to sell tomorrow." I was like, "Why don't you take a day off tomorrow? Take a week off." But then I haven't got anything to sell if you haven't got anything to buy. I said, "You don't need to sell anything. Go and spend the money." So anyway, I built this relationship with her. I started to play with superfoods, and I bought everything. I took it back with me. Customs are like, "What the hell's all this?" I got, tags for everything. I grew and I started working with the geniuses on the planet in superfoods. And here's what I thought, Rachel. I thought, if I take a superfood that's vibrating up here, because we can read the frequencies in everything now. Yeah. And I take one that's vibrating up here, and I put them together, they're going to be up here.
Yeah.
It started to happen for some, not all, but some of the superfoods. I could have a superfood like a moringa, amazing superfood. I put superfood with a chlorella. Guess what happens? Boom! They cancel each other out.
Okay.
And I was like, because we were testing it on human cells, and I was like, "It doesn't make any sense." And then I suddenly realized, oh my God, it's all energy. They've got their own personalities. They've got their own characters.
Yeah.
And it's like having a business where you've been in a kitchen. There's one head chef. Imagine if everybody tried to be a head chef.
Yeah.
It would be like a playground with kids screaming all the time, and nothing would get done. And it's kind of like when you get two bosses and they cancel each other out. You better have and not lots of Indians. So what I had to understand was, what's the value that this superfood has to the human, and how does it want to connect with other superfoods?
Yeah.
Years and years and years later. But when I figured out the formula, we created prime protein and an energy mix. So what we do on a retreat is we just do a shot of one with a little shot glass and a shot of the other. That's it. So you imagine all we're taking in is water, these every day, a shot of alkaline protein, a shot of the energy mix, that's it. Then at the end of the 5 days, we go and read everyone and say like this doctor, she came in and the nutrients in her blood were in the red zone, which is big time danger zone.
Okay.
She's now leaving. We do the test. We look at the nutrients in the blood and guess what we're seeing? 100% nutrients in her blood. 100%. Now, all of this is going in this Reborn documentary because I don't think there's anyone around the world that can show what we can show as possible in 5 days.
Yeah.
And I said to her, you know, it's so perfect. You coming in, being trained as a doctor, but now learning what really heals people.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Having a new lease in life in your mid-60s to go out there and yeah.
Yeah. I remember at the end of the week in Spain, the week retreat that I came on those years ago, my nails and my eyes and my skin were just like radiant white. It was like the healthiest I've ever experienced my body. It was just incredible. And of course, this is the challenge, is you have these peak experiences and then you come back to normal life.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you kind of like slightly falter and, you know, and being in this intensive container where you are not, I won't say institutionalized, but it creates that container where you can maintain it over a sustained period of time. It's that's very, very powerful, isn't it? That kind of, that alchemy.
Yeah. So what I've been practicing, Rachel, is how to raise up the levels of a group consciousness.
Yeah.
We had, so I'll give you an example because this is why we have to, because everyone said, look, can you run it online? Because we run a lot of our events online. I said, not this one.
Yeah.
I said, it has to be total immersion. This is why everyone will walk away with their own miracles, guaranteed, everyone. And what happened was,
Skip, just hold for 1 second. I just need to just go and turn the oven down. So why don't you continue talking?
Okay.
And I'll come back in 1 minute, but just keep speaking to the viewers. So save me having to edit. Okay.
Cool. Right. So Peter, who owns the Pyramids of G, who's now a good friend, but before he knew me, he'd known about the work that I was doing from super high level people. And he said, look, I need to experience this. So Peter, who owns the Pyramids of G, he came and experienced all 5 days. He was there early in the morning and he kept asking me, Skip, can I not do this? Can I not do that? I said, no, Peter, you're either all in or you're all out. Like, come on. They're my pyramids. Let me just dip in and see what's going on. And if I can join in, I'll join in. I said, it doesn't work like that. You're either a part of the group consciousness or you're not. Because if I'm raising up the group consciousness and you bail out here and we're up here and you come in here, you're going to pull things down. I said, it's all or nothing. He goes, all right, I've got it. Because he kept coming up. This has come up in the business. That's come up. I said, I don't care. You're either in or you're out. That's all the conversation is, Peter. Anyway, so he came, and at the end of it, he said, I never witnessed anything like this in my life. As I said, I've had the best healers from all around the world doing workshops and stuff here. How you do this from early morning till late at night. There's no other presenters. You're running all the processes. Okay, you have an amazing team behind the scenes, which I do. I've got a kick-ass team that run things behind the scenes so that every process is set up so I can come in and then do my stuff and obviously give people the gift of that. Now, here's the power of environment, Rachel. I looked at Peter after, and he gave me the most unbelievable video testimonial, and he's gone and introduced me to his entire database because he said, look, they need what you've got. So he introduces me to his whole database, and when I looked at him and I said, right, you know what was toxic before this event, because I've gone through everything now, no going back to the toxic shit. And he goes, gotcha. And when he looked at me, the thing that came up in my mind was bullshit. And I said nothing, right? So I wasn't being authentic in my truth. Maybe because I wanted to be a pleaser and just being a good vibe with it. I get a call, Rachel, just under 2 months ago. He's in hospital and he's just had a stroke.
Oh dear.
Lost all movement from one side of his body. And he said, you came to me. You was one of the first people I needed to reach out to. We was meant to be in Bali June the 1st. He said to me, can you move it to July the 1st because of this, what's happened, and I've got these other things, and I can't think of anything else I want to go through apart from these 5 days. I know what it was, Skip. You knew what it was. I'm not going to bullshit myself or you anymore. I need to come. I need to regenerate in these 5 days to boost me back up to where I need to be. And I was like, Peter, people have already paid for this retreat. Just Skip, with my hand on my heart, I'm asking you, can you move it? What the hell am I going to say to that? I said, all right, we'll do it because it's you, Peter. And I know the world needs more of these pyramids. So I'll do it. We lost 3 paying clients. You know, them saying that us as the company were being unprofessional and all of this. And I said, look, I'm sorry. Here's a gift. They were sorry. I never told them the reason why because I didn't want to expose then what happened to Peter because it was, you know, private information at that point. And he's going to be there with us again in July. So, we, you know, July the 1st, fully committing because you understand this, Rachel, if we don't like, you know, I love driving supercars. You know, I've just always loved driving them. And there won't be a year where I don't put that car, you know, those cars through a service.
Yeah.
Because it needs servicing. How often do we do it for ourselves?
Yeah. True.
Never.
Yeah.
So coming out of our environment, going into an environment, and here's what we do. We start, first of all, number one, we stop the poisoning. That's why I don't allow any food or drink to go in. So the only things that are going in are coming from our, you know, from our stuff. And then we start the cleansing. So we start cleansing stuff out. We're cleansing physical stuff out. We're cleansing mental stuff out. We're cleansing emotional stuff. Like a lot of the physical pains that people are feeling, Rachel, they're not physical pain. What they are is trapped emotional energies.
Yeah.
And by bringing in a higher frequency, what it does is it kind of removes the lid on this thing, and this thing can now bubble up to the surface, and it's just like a bubble. You know, if I remove that and that bubble bubbles up to the surface, as soon as that bubble's gone, can we ever get that bubble back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's gone.
Yeah.
So when we show people how to get this stuff to bubble up so they're free of it, all of a sudden we're seeing multiple people, you know, at the same events going, I've had this neck pain for years. I've had this elbow, I've had this knee pain, I've had this, I've had that. Gone. Just gone.
Yeah.
People wearing glasses around day 3, they start seeing in focus without their glasses.
Yeah. Oh, that I remember that actually from that retreat as well, that you were teaching us eye yoga.
Yeah.
And because I wear contact lenses and I was doing this eye yoga, and it's absolutely incredible. It's like, oh my God, I don't actually need to wear glasses. And then, of course, when I get back home, I start getting a bit lazy, and then I slip back. But during that week, it was just like, it was incredible. I can see without any, you know.
Yeah. Without a lens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I went round, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Greg Secker. So Greg has an online training company. I think it sells Forex trading, I think. And he'd heard about what I do. And he, you know, super rich guy, living in an £8 million house, you know, fleet of supercars, you know, outside. I arrive at his place and he says, everything in my life is just breaking down. He goes, I've got CEOs around the world ripping me off. This is happening. I'm going through this big divorce. I can't see my kid. Everything's just fucking hell. And I'm talking to him and I'm saying, everything I'm saying about the retreat, he's rejecting everything, like with super intelligent responses, but he's just responding with the intellect.
Yeah.
And he got to the point where I said, you know what, Greg? I said, you called me as your coach. I've come here to be your coach. But you used to being the yes person and you're rejecting everything I'm saying. I said, I'm just going to say one more thing. You're breaking down because you're toxic. Everything around you is a ripple out of you. It's a reflection of you. until we remove these toxins and we get you locked into a lifestyle that isn't a toxic lifestyle,
Yeah.
it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
This is what you're saying. And I kid you not, Rachel, I was flying out to Spain, I think 2 days later. And he goes, I need to book in. There isn't space here. And I couldn't believe this, Rachel, because I just hired this. It was the first one that I'd done out of lockdown. And I just messaged a bunch of people and said, look, I'm running a retreat. Do you want to come? This is it. Sold out straight away. One person called me up and went, Skip, you're not going to believe this. I've had something come up. Can I, and it's a private client one, can I please move my place to the next retreat? So then Greg slotted in.
Wow.
And now worth 100 million. And this guy was obese. He was breaking down hardcore. And I met him at this mastermind in London. And he comes in looking all dapper. And I went, look at you, where you been? And he went, you told me that some crazy stuff would start to happen. And it's began. And I said, like what? And he went, well, I heard that there was a half marathon happening out in Dubai. So I flew the private jet out there, did the half marathon, and I've just come back to the meeting. Walk from here to there without being out of breath. And now he's running full marathons.
Wow.
So yeah, it gives people back then. And what I believe people are is the universe, source energy, God, all reshaped in physical form, because we're given free will. There's no meaning to life until we give it a meaning. It's just a game. And what this will do is it will teach people how to play the game so much better. Because none of us stay in the game. We don't want to stay in the game.
Yeah.
But we're here. Let's be miracle makers.
So Skip, I know that I think you've got a webinar coming up where you're going to go into more depth in this and the retreat. So I think what I'll probably do is put the link below the video. So I'm going to put this out on my YouTube channel. Amazing. And is there anything else you want to add? Any more detail? Because I'm just conscious we've been going for over an hour now. Is there anything you want to close with, any important information or offers or whatever you might want to add?
What we'll do is, okay, I truly believe that the secret of living is giving. And you know, we sell this retreat for £10,000 now. And everyone who comes, they say, look, it's worth 10 times that amount. You know, the ones who've got money say, look, it's worth 10 times that amount of money. And I've had people go on these celebrity retreats where they pay 100K, come on ours, and they're like, yours is like 10 times the value of that. What it's done for, I'll leave it with this story because it involves my mum. And my mum, when I first started getting into this world, I got partners all around the world that introduced me to their audiences, because I worked on the owners of the company, transformed them. They wanted it to ripple out to their network. So I've been lucky. I've always been given, you know, people to work with, and I've been able to do the whole thing off grid, you know, kind of like in stealth mode. But I was going around the world, being in front of thousands of people every single year, but going home and seeing my mum get worse and worse and worse. Now, what I shared at the beginning of the story, when the first thing that healed my broken back was unconditional love from my mum.
Oh.
With that unconditional love, I'd given up on me, but she wouldn't give up on me. And so she had more life at that time than me. And she said, I don't know why you're here. It sucks that you're here, but something's brought you here for a reason, and we will find the reason. And when we found that reason, we'll be able to come out of it. And I was rejecting all of it. I was like, go away. You don't know what it's like just being in a machine like this every day, just moving in traction, just to keep the circulation going. Let me die. Now, someone's screaming that at their mum, you know, the son screaming that at the mum must be the worst thing for any mum to hear. Anyway, she comes in one day and she says, I found someone. He broke his back. He got told he'd never stand or walk again. He was in traction, you know, to keep the body moving. And he fully healed. And he went on to inspire millions of people around the world. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was talking about Bruce Lee.
Oh,
now,
wow.
I started to absorb all this stuff from Bruce Lee. what I learned was, and I wasn't absorbing all of his martial arts teachings. You know, I'm absorbing his spiritual beliefs, his spiritual,
Yeah.
because he was a big fan of Confucius. So I started to study Confucius and the Buddha and all these amazing ascended masters, where their teachings are probably more powerful today than when they first came out, like a couple of thousand years ago. So when I learned that there's only 3 ways that we can absorb any life as a human being, that if we got a problem, we just got to go to one of these 3 things. Now, I look at them as 3 engines. Now, those 3 engines are what? You know what they are?
Go on, tell us, Skip.
The body, the mind, and the spirit. It's not rocket science.
Okay.
No other. Now, obviously, my body was broken, and so was my mind. You can't break a spirit; it's energy. Try and break energy; it's impossible. It just falls from one thing to another. So when I obviously opened up with hope, and that was the first thing, because Mum said, if he did it, you're going to find out how he did it, and you're going to replicate those steps. Now that was like a glimmer of hope going in, and it was, you know, bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. But then when I realized whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. What if I start thinking I can stand and I can walk?
Yeah.
I didn't entertain those thoughts. Hadn't even gone in it. So when they go in, different reality. So obviously, as that story continued, but it led me to being free in the body, free in the mind. And I actually went back to gymnastics, did a competition, and became the English champion. So I went from completely broken to being a champion. Now, all it did was prove to me how phenomenal we can be as human beings. Now, I'm looking at Mum getting bigger and bigger and bigger. She's going blind. She's in and out of hospital, many operations, high cholesterol, low blood pressure. She couldn't walk from one side of the room to the other without being in serious pain. And I've got 0 influence on her. And she was 69 years old. And me and my sister had said that we was going to organise a 70th birthday party for her. And I remember my sister saying, there's no point in us booking a room. I said, why not? Because we booked the room, we booked the DJ, we booked the catering, and Mum's not here. We've wasted all that money. And when she said that, I hadn't even thought about that, and it just went in. Oh, Mum could not be here. And it's because of her lifestyle and her beliefs. And I kept trying to get her to come to the retreat, and she rejected everything. So let me tell you what I did, right? Because it's hilarious. I called her up one day. We've got the retreat happening in Spain. I called her up and I said, like, Mum, you know I run this retreat all over the world. She goes, yeah. I said, you know people pay top money to come on this retreat? She goes, yeah. You know I need a team to help me to get set up for the processes, yeah. I said, my entire team has let me down. She said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know. I said, one by one, they've messaged me to tell that they can't come to Spain. What are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. That's why I'm calling you. Will you please come and help? Now, back we were doing juicing at the event. So back then, what I'd said to her was, look, I've got this machine. I've got all these special recipes that I've done for juices. And I just need to, what else juice? You know, you go back like all those years. Now we know what it is. But back then, people didn't know what juicing was. You know, there were no juices out there. It wasn't in the mainstream consciousness. So she goes, no, I won't be able to juice. You know, everything was scaring her. I'm like, oh God, everything I say, she just don't fear. Come on, how can I break through this? Now, anytime we tell a lie, we have to know this. We weaken ourselves. The body can't tell a lie. The mind is lying all the time. But when we tell a lie, the entire body goes weak. And I prove this at events when I get people to just say their real name, they have a certain strength. I get to say, oh, I'm Mickey Mouse, which is not hurting anyone. And they go super weak and they've got no strength in them. So we show people how to do that live, and people realize, oh my God, I've been bullshitting people most of my life and taken my own power away. So now it's reflected back. We realize that we can only be free when we're in the truth. So I'm now about to go into a lie because all of my truth wasn't getting in. So I said, look, Mum, I've got no one to help me. Will you please come? Are you going to let your son down? I've got no one else to call it. I'd never let you down. You know I'd never let you down. I said, well, look, can I see if I can get you a flight? She goes, when are you flying out? I said, well, we're flying out tomorrow. She goes, tomorrow? It's peak season. You're never going to get a flight. And I said, well, look, let me see. If I can get a flight, will he come? Well, if you can get a flight, then maybe it's meant to be. I said, right, let me go see if I can get a flight. Right, I'd already booked the flights. So anyway, I go away. I come back 20 minutes later, and I'm like, "Hey, Mum, you're not going to believe this. I got a flight. I got a flight." I said, "I'm taking you to Spain." So I go, I pick her up. I wheel her through the airport. Get to the venue. I wheel her to her park. The whole team's getting everything set up, and I go in and I see her, and I said, "Mum, you're not going to believe this. The entire team is here." "What do you mean?" I said, "You know how I'm playing jokes on everyone just to keep, a fun vibe in everyone?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "That's what they were doing with me. They played on me because I'm not needed then." I said, "No, no, no." It's now I'm thinking, "Oh my God, she wants to fly back." And I said, well, no, "I can't take you back to the airport, and I don't want her thinking about, getting a driver." I said, "Look, just stay for day one. I'll put a chair at the back. I'll put some cushions up so you can put your legs up. Just see what your son does. I swear, you're going to love it." So she stays for day one. She sees a woman who owned a yoga studio in London, had a frozen shoulder, who couldn't, she could only lift her arm up to like here. And obviously, you need to lift your arm up all the way. And she saw this woman called Katia have an instant healing on that retreat on day one. She comes up to me, she goes, "Was that real? What happened?" I said, "Why do you think someone's going to fake this, Mum? They've paid so much money to be here. They're not faking anything." "Wow. This is what you do?" I said, "Yeah." Because she'd obviously seen me as a gymnast or, bringing acrobatics to like some of the world's biggest shows and stuff. He goes, "Can I stay for day two?" "Want to?" "Well, I'd like to." I said, "All right." So she stays for the entire 5 days. She goes back. She loses 28 pounds like that.
Wow.
And she's going to be 82 years old soon. I spoke to her this morning. She swam 50 lengths already today, done yoga, done meditation, done a juicing. Her lifestyle is transformed beyond belief. Most of the family members and friends that were around her, they've all dropped and passed. And at 82 years old, she is thriving with life at the highest levels. Wakes up at 5 most days and she's out doing stuff.
Wow.
And what does it
Well
show?
done.
Got no age. So it's happened. So the masterclass is happening Wednesday at 6:30 UK time. It's going to be about 2 hours long.
As in next Wednesday.
Yep. Yep.
So what date is next Wednesday?
So next Wednesday it's going to be
7th is
wait,
7th.
Yeah. Yep.
And what time is it? UK.
6:30 UK.
Cool. So people can sign up for that for free?
Yeah, totally for free.
Okay.
And what we get, so that masterclass was put together because Peter and Greg, so Peter owns the Pyramids of Chi, Greg manages the Pyramids of Chi. They both obviously gone through Detox Life for 5 days. And because I'd never explained, like when you came on it, you had no idea what was going to happen in those 5 days.
Well, in fact, you hadn't even told everyone it was juicing only because you said that people might not want to come.
Yeah,
so we were fully expecting lots of food, and it was just. But actually, we didn't miss it. I didn't miss it at all. It was like it's incredible.
We were so busy focusing on the next thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
We were trying to be hungry.
Yeah.
And usually, like the hunger pains usually only last for the first 3 days, but they're just like a wave. It passes pretty quick.
Yeah.
What we found happening now, Rachel, is I won't let people go without breaking the fast, because what now happens is when I say to everyone, right, graduation happens when we break the fast.
Yeah.
So I meant you graduate from this because it's like we compress decades and decades and decades into these 5 days. And what happens now is I'll usually get a handful of people come up to me just before we're about to break the fast, and they're like, and they're looking dodgy. They're like this. They're like, Skip, I know we're meant to eat, but I've never felt this good in my life.
Yes.
Like they're looking at nails. They're looking at, the whites of their eyes. People's teeth get whiter. It's unbelievable what happens. We've had people born not being able to hear. So they spent their entire life being deaf. Suddenly they start hearing again.
Yeah.
Right? And they say it's got nothing to do with me. It's got to do with letting go of stuff that's creating resistance, physical, mental, emotional, past karmic stuff. Sometimes we get this stuff handed down to us, Rachel. So depending on certain bloodlines, I know I picked a lot of crap up from my parents, which most of us did. Not their fault. You know, when we get the spiritual, we pick our parents. So, you know, it's meant to be that way. And but if they haven't resolved certain things, it gets handed to us, and then it's for us to transmute it. So a lot of people are saying, but why is this happening to me? And then we go into it and we're this is ancestral. This has been handed down from this generation to this one, and then landed with you. So when we teach them to let go of that stuff, and then we get them activated, they're feeling the best they've ever felt, they're looking the best that they've ever felt, and then they say, I don't want to eat because I don't want anything to take away. And I said, then you're not going to graduate if you don't eat. That's the graduation. We all sit down and we eat together and we celebrate what the planet has made for us, what the frequency, because when we eat food, all foods have a different color. All those colors have a different frequency.
Yeah.
So we're eating this incredible, nutritious, delicious food. All of a sudden, people are having a different connection with nutrition. Because most people aren't conscious when they're eating. They're eating on the go. They're not even aware of what's going in. So, yeah, it's a paradigm shift, people. So what we're going to do is Wednesday, they asked me to put together a little insight in me lifting up the veil and taking people behind the scenes to see what goes on. So that's what's going to happen on Wednesday.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll put the link below the video so people can sign up for that. And and will there be a recording of that as well, Skip, if people can't make it live?
Yeah, if they can't make it live, then we'll send them out the recording. And what we say is, because there's a world full of distraction, what we found is that if we do send a recording out, we give people 48 hours to watch the recording, because otherwise the habits come in. Netflix comes in, Apple TV comes in, all this stuff comes in, because it's just what people are programmed, you know, to have in front of a screen. Where, you know, these masterclasses, what I truly believe is that anybody who comes on there, they'll leave with so many nuggets. You know me, I just want to be like
Skip's Golden Nuggets. I remember that DVD. I think you did. It was called Skip's Golden Nuggets, wasn't it? This is many years ago. Do you remember?
It was a
book. A book.
The picture book.
Yeah.
And it was Max who went, it's Golden Nuggets, and I was like, I think my imagination is going in a weird direction. He goes, nah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. But yeah,
cool.
It's there's so much information out there now, Rachel, that, you know, people drowning and suffocating in this information. And what I believe the body, the mind, and the spirit is looking for is transformation, is where we can be with the body and the mind. And then this game of life, it becomes a gift.
Cool. Well, I think we'll leave it there, Skip, because my my food is ready in the oven. So lots of love. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that, and thank you for that invitation to come to Bali. And if I'm able, if I'm well enough and I get the all clear, I would absolutely love to come and be there, because I just know the power of what you do. And yeah, it was so much fun last time. So
what I'll say is, even if they don't give you because I'm all about what just gets results. I'm just hardwired for results.
Yeah.
If they don't give you the all clear, we're then going to be out in Spain. I think it's October the 14th.
Okay.
So then you guaranteed to go through those 5 days, either one.
Yeah, fantastic, because it's just like the long haul flight, and you know, like the pressure and, you know, all of that. I've been told to just be careful of that. So
definitely, yeah.
One way or another, I will make it on another one of your retreats, Skip. So much love to you, and you're doing amazing work in the world. So I'm hoping that at least some of our viewers will feel inspired to come and join you, and hopefully I'll be there too. So sending you so much love and huge amounts of gratitude, and I'll try and come on Wednesdays, or there is no try, is there, as Yoda says. It's my intention to come on the Wednesday's webinar and listen more deeply. So yeah, hopefully we'll join you there.
Amazing. Sending you so much love. Good to reconnect, Rachel.
Okay, lots of love, Skip.
God bless.
Okay, bye for now. Bye-bye.